So on the other side of that, we're talking about games that we're excited about, right? But hype can also be a bad thing, as we've
Yep.
seen with fucking
No
No
Man's
Man's
Sky.
Sky, which is currently sitting at 5.0 user score on Metacritic. I'm going to check if that's up.
Jesus Christ.
Last time I checked, it was still the same. It was 5.0, but I'm going to check.
Problem with that, people got. I mean, it's not a bad game, right? But people, I think, had a serious misunderstanding of what the game was.
See, to be honest, I feel like Hello Games have to take some responsibility for that, because at the E3 presentations and stuff like that, they are pitching it as exploration. That was the main thing about it. Listen, I do feel sorry for Hello Games, because I feel like it's not really their fault with the hype surrounding it. I feel like Sony actually have to take some responsibility for this, because the marketing just got totally fucking out of control. Like, here's the user score just now. It's got a 5.0 user score, 71 on critic score. Yeah, which is disappointing, because I was kind of looking forward to it, but I think, like, the longer they held it back, the more scrutinised it got.
Yeah.
And if it didn't deliver, people were going to tear it apart.
I mean, I don't have a PS4, but if I had a PS4, I think I'd go out and buy it today, because it looks like my kind of game. The only issue I have with it is, which is the same issue I had since it was announced, is what do you do? Like, there's no story to it.
Yeah.
There's no, like, there's like a mission, like a general, like, overarching mission, which is like reach the center of the universe or whatever. But I think a lot of people are like, they get their hands on it, the first 2 hours is great, and then they're like, alright, now I've done everything, what do I do?
Yeah.
And because it's procedurally generated, it's got that kind of, not, almost like lack of detail. Like, everything's just random. It's definitely been too hyped. I think if it just came out and they were like, oh, here's our game, this is what it does,
yeah,
I think people would fucking love it.
Yeah.
I think they focused on the infinite procedurally generated universe thing, and people were expecting this to be some, like, incredible next step in video games, and it's just another.
I mean, I still think it is a technical marvel in some aspects, but, like, just not
Absolutely.
to the extent they were pitching it as, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I actually kind of feel bad for these guys, because this is their first game, and it's just...
Because I know the guy, what's his name, Sean?
Yeah.
Whatever his name is, worked on, like, Burnout and all that.
I didn't know that, but I think under the moniker Hello Games, this is their...
No, they've got mobile games out.
Oh, right, cool.
A game called Joe Danger.
No,
it's out on Android and PS Vita and Steam. Oh, it's out on Steam and all that as well.
So it's our first console game then?
No. Joe Danger 2, the movie, is out on Xbox Live Arcade. Joe Danger Special Edition. Just a fucking bunch of Joe Danger games that they've made.
Oh, okay.
So, like, side-scrolling racing stunt games, I think. Very, like, definitely a mobile game that's been transported over.
Oh, right.
Doesn't look very good.
I mean, I was looking at some screenshots of it though, and the game doesn't look very pretty.
It's got a weird art style to it that is quite ugly. Sometimes it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, there's a guy he was on a moon looking out at the planet, and the sun was rising behind the planet, and it looked incredible. I was looking at it, I was like, this is beautiful. And then there's like another guy who's like just running through the planet, and you're like, this looks shitty. This looks like a game that came out 7 years ago.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I don't want to spend too much time on this because I want to get into the topic. But No Man's Sky is kind of like the basis for this topic. But it's kind of like, has there ever been a game that you've hyped up for yourself too much before it's came out and you've ultimately been disappointed with? And then on the other side of that, has there ever been a game that maybe somebody else has hyped up, or maybe like game sites have hyped up and then you've played it yourself and been like, what the fuck, is this it?
Yeah. Well, your first question, I immediately thought of the first Watch Dogs because I get so excited for that. And I thought this is going to be GTA with hacking.
Yeah.
And then it came out, and it was just fucking terrible. I was so disappointed. But I don't think that was really my fault, because, I got myself too hyped for it. But I think even if I'd been not bothered at all by it, it was still not a very good game.
Yeah.
I can't think of any that... I think Bioshock Infinite, for me, was one that all my pals got really hyped about, and they're going on about how it's amazing. It's just like the original Bioshock. It's got that same sense of like mystery and all this to it. And then I played Bioshock Infinite, and it wasn't what they said it was, and it was still great, but it just wasn't as good as they'd all hyped it up for me, and that kind of ruined it. And I was kind of pissed off at them.
Well, I have a couple of games. The big one that I'm going to go on a rant about, and you're going to disagree with me with, is Arkham Knight.
Well, you got hyped up for that?
I got myself hyped up for Arkham Knight, yeah. I just thought...
More the same.
I didn't necessarily think it was a bad game. I was just very disappointed with it, with the story, the gameplay. The
story was fucking terrible.
I think there were some cool ideas there, and they just didn't do enough with it. Like, for me, the Arkham games have really fallen from grace, and Rocksteady have sort of disgraced themselves a wee bit with the DLC that came out for Arkham Knight as well.
Oh, I didn't even know there was DLC. What was it?
There was like Nightwing DLC and stuff like that. Well, also whether it was like costumes and stuff like that. But the Nightwing DLC was like the Batgirl DLC was like being hyped up as a big one, and it was half an hour long. Then there was a Nightwing DLC.
Batgirl, A Matter of Family one.
Yeah, and then the Nightwing DLC was 15 minutes long, and they were charging like some ridiculous price for it. Yeah, for me, the Arkham Knight.
Nightwing DLC was just one like mission.
For me, the reason Arkham Knight kind of fell so short for me was, like you were saying, it was kind of more of the same. The Batmobile just wasn't doing it for me. I thought it was really clunky. Didn't enjoy it. Thought it was just too on rails, too arcadey. It didn't fit in. I thought it was the least Batman thing you could possibly be doing, is driving around shooting tanks. I mean, the story, like I was saying, there were some cool ideas there, just not executed the right way. I mean, like, the idea of the Joker coming back to life and taking over Batman's body with the Scarecrow fear gas, I was like, why could you have not that's a cool idea of Batman hallucinating and seeing the Joker, but why could you have not made it more psychological rather than a supernatural thing? Like, maybe Batman doesn't know how to function without the Joker, and that's why he sees him, because he's so dependent, like they're two sides of the same coin, like they're so dependent of each other. The other thing was Arkham Knight the wheel was fucking obvious that it was Jason Todd, even though they were saying for ages, no, it's not Jason Todd, it's not Red Hood, it's an original character, so they're fucking liars. They lied.
Yeah, they said it's original character, and they got around that because, it's an original character, but that's just the Arkham Knight part of it. Mm-hmm. The guy who is the Arkham Knight is not an original character, but they were like, oh, the Arkham Knight's an original character.
Yeah, and he's barely in the game anyway, and when he is in the game, he's fucking terrible.
Aye.
And then Scarecrow was a disappointment as well, and they were hyping him up as like being a big part of the story, and it's just kind of like a side villain at best. The Joker is the main villain yet again. The fact of the matter is, like, see the other Arkham games, like Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, I don't think they've aged that well, and every time you go back and play them, it's now starting to dawn on me that it's just kind of more of the same. So like I said, like, those games have kind of like fallen from grace for me a wee bit.
I think Batman, I hate to say it, but might be on his way out.
Yeah.
I think people are getting kind of sick of Batman.
I'm getting kind of sick of Batman, to be honest with you.
Especially with, we had the Chris Nolan movies,
mm-hmm.
and then we had all the Batman v Superman shit, and now there's there's all the Arkham games, and now there's the Telltale game and all that, and I think it's just too much Batman,
mm-hmm.
that everyone's like, oh yeah, more Batman, and then you get more Batman, and you're like, actually, there's too much Batman, like, it's on something else.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about, get back to Suicide Squad while we're talking about Batman,
mm-hmm.
and it's like every Batman thing kind of suffers with it, and I'm assuming that the Telltale game's going to have the Joker in it, but they feel the need to, like, the Joker has to be in it. They're like, oh, it's not Batman without the Joker.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like Suicide Squad would have been much, much better if the Joker had already been dealt with by Batman before the beginning of the movie, and either all the scenes he was in were flashbacks, or Harley Quinn was just fucking crazy and was seeing him everywhere. Because they're just like, oh, we need to include the Joker because it's just Harley Quinn's in it, Joker needs to be in it, Batman needs to be in it.
Yeah, I mean, like, another game that was disappointing to me overall, like, I didn't get pure hyped for it, but that was Firewatch, and we're not going to spend more time talking about that. I've made my feelings about that game clear.
You didn't like it, I did.
Yeah, we're not going to waste more time on that. I think the big game that everyone hyped up, and I mean everybody, like all the gaming sites, were saying like this is one of the best games ever made. I got it for PS3 and I just could not get my head around it at all, and that was Shadow of the Colossus.
I don't think I ever played that.
It's the guys who done The Last Guardian, but nah man, I just couldn't get my head around it at all. It was this very minimal storytelling, like there was voice acting in it and stuff like that, but it was kind of like a made up language they were talking, and like it's really weird. Like Shadow of the Colossus is meant to be like a prequel to Ico and stuff like that. It's really confusing.
That's the one that it was like the giant, you fighting the giant fucking monsters.
Yeah.
People go on about how fucking good that game was. I never played it.
Yeah, I just couldn't get into it at all. And the other game that everyone hyped up to fucking absurdity was Undertale, which I couldn't...
Yeah, that's like a weird, like, 2D...
turn-based game that gives you the option not to fight and stuff like that, and I was just... I didn't really like... I couldn't get into it. Just what... I thought the idea was cool, it just wasn't for me.
Yeah. A lot of people have said that it gets really good, you just have to kind of fight through the first couple hours, and it's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to play through shitty couple of hours to get to the good bit of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate when people say that, like, oh no, it gets good 14 hours in. And it's like, yeah, but why would you sit through 14 hours of shit?
Yeah.
I mean, sit through if it's bad, I'm not going to play it, and that's that.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the hypes aspect of it, I think, like, the more the game is hyped up, the more it's going to fall short, which is why I'm now kind of nervous about stuff like The Last Guardian and stuff like that, which is like 10 years old. Final Fantasy 15 is 10 years old. There's no way it can live up to expectations now. Do you know what I mean?